Well, Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Well, what do you do when you share such a love?
Welcome to
Well,
the
you start a
107th
club, you
episode of
start a
the
club, and it's
ABC
Don't
Pod, the
Book Club,
Adult
and
Book
it's
Club
Don't
with
Book
Taja and Russell. I am
Club.
Russell.
And
She
a
is Taja.
podcast.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, and welcome back, everybody, to the podcast where we drink and we read things. And on this episode, we read I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it?
I hope so. I'm going to try really hard. I watched a video of her doing it a few times, but that was also like
Nice.
3 days ago when I wrote the rundown. So I did try to put it phonetically as I thought it would sound. Or,
Okay.
yeah, but I'm terrible with sounds and words. And anyway, that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. So, Taj, before we do get to the book, it's been 2 weeks. What's been going on in your life?
Well, winter like happened. Yeah. A couple weeks ago we got like 6 to 8 inches of snow.
Ugh,
There is still some snow on the ground here, like in town where
shaded.
it's crazy. There's not snow. So that was a surprise, and I think everybody collectively was just not ready for it. Um, so yeah, that's been fun, I guess. It makes stick season less sticky, so that's kind of nice.
You know,
But yeah, I'm not really into that. And then we had a successful Halloween slash soup bowl that went really awesomely. I think the soups were really good, and it wasn't like the full contingent of weird, but it was fun. Um, yeah, I had a lot of soup left over because I doubled my recipe, and then I know it was really dumb because I was like, there's gonna be more of us. And then I think as we were going there, I was like, not everyone's gonna have a full serving of this soup. So we ate soup for a while after.
nice.
And then yeah, Barry and I started to plan our summer trip. We bought plane tickets already, but we're gonna be going to Canada to like Banff National Park and Glacier National Park. What is that face?
So jealous. I'm
Oh.
like, Amanda gets so focused on other parts of the world that I've been trying to get her to Western Canada, even Pacific Northwest for
Mhm.
years. Years. And I think I may have finally convinced her, but we have not. Yeah, we got to get through Rwanda, which I think is going to be in April before we can like
Okay.
focus on the summer.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
no, that's just pure jealousy.
Okay, cool. Cool, cool. Yeah, it's something we've been talking about for a while. We also talked about doing Pacific Northwest and like renting a car and like driving down from like
Right.
Oregon, California, that kind of thing. Would also really love to go to Vancouver, but like I think that's gonna be a different trip. So yeah, we're flying into Calgary, and we're gonna be there for like about 10 days. We have nothing else but just the plane,
Yeah.
which wasn't too bad. We are flying out of Boston, because it was much less expensive. And yeah, so it's wild to think that a plane ticket from Boston to Calgary was only like 400 something bucks. And like when I looked at flights from here to Atlanta for Dragon Con, it's like about the same amount of money. And you're like, this is not equidistant. It's very frustrating. I will not get on my soapbox about frickin' American air travel or just air travel in general, but it's dumb.
Dumb.
End of rant. Okay.
Um, Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Speaking of, I can jump right in there. Air traffic and traveling rants. So I went to Florida for the week to spend with my parents, and my brother came with me, which is always an adventure in itself. Flying when you weren't sure who was going to show up to direct airplanes for that day because of our government shutdown was definitely like I've never checked the status of my flight more for like the 48 plus hours leading up to it. Thankfully, and I think we
No
lucked out
delays?
flying out of Manchester. Like Manchester wasn't really affected at all, but Orlando was. So I think we just lucked out from flying from a smaller airport. If
Nice.
we had tried to go to Boston or Bradley, maybe we probably would have run into some issues. Also,
Yeah.
flying direct. Like a lot of people
Oh,
sounded like their issues came from connecting flights and all that, but
connecting.
like
Yeah.
I won't do that. I like On our
Anytime
international
there's a direct
flights,
flight.
yeah, on our international flights, you usually have to,
Yeah.
but otherwise, no, I'm not doing that. I'll pay the extra money to not have to go up and down an extra time.
Heck yeah.
I did also appreciate that it sounded like when they didn't have air traffic controllers, they just canceled flights from landing in certain airports rather than winging it. So
That's good.
there wasn't like a fear of more fear than normal of a crash. It was more just like, are we going to get there kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I will say on top of like airline travel being expensive, renting a car is fucking dumb expensive. And renting a car in Florida is dumb expensive because they nickel and dime me for everything. And I called my insurance company. It's like, hey, I'm covered for like rental cars. And they're like, yeah, where are you going? And I was like, Florida. And they want me to do all these additional things. They're like, do it. It's Florida. They will screw you. And I was like, okay, cool.
Whoa.
So it was a lot more expensive to rent the car, but at the same time, it was just kind of like it was really nice not have to worry about it. I picked it
Yeah.
up. I was like, hey, here's a car. I brought it back. I was like, here's your car. It's literally the same condition because yeah.
I don't know if this is accurate, but I think there are some credit card perks, and it might be the Venture card that we have. Um, I know it's our Costco card, but it might be that too, the one you have that part of the perk is that there's like additional car rental insurance coverage.
I'll look into that. Yeah,
Yeah.
normally like we nor and also usually when you go places, there's just like a base fee. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, do you want to add our insurance? It's like $50. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
fuck it, that's worth it. In Florida, and I don't know, I don't usually handle the rental cars. Amanda does, but it was a per day for everything. So it's
Oh,
not just a blanket price, which is the bullshit thing, especially
yeah.
since we just need the car to drive the 2 hours to my parents'
Right. You're
house and
not
drive
using it
back.
all day long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need it for. So I looked at like if I could drop it off near my parents and then pick it up 2 days later,
Oh,
but
yeah.
even that just became it was just whatever. You just do it, you call it a day. We're not paying for a place to stay, and I'm kind of like, okay, that's our hotel.
Sure, sure.
And if all else fails, we'll run into the car. Well, it was nice to see my parents. I was there's just a lot going on in my family right now that we don't have to get into here. So it was nice to come home as well. And I was able to bring them a digital picture frame. So we're able to
Oh,
like give them more
nice.
updated photos and stuff like that, which I think
Yeah,
will
like the
help.
grandkids and
Yes, all the grandkids that we don't. It's like grandkid, Amanda and I on vacation,
yeah.
grandkid, Amanda and I on vacation, somebody else's dog, Amanda and I on vacation.
hmm
Here you go. So yeah, so that was nice. I enjoyed Halloween too, obviously. The Super Bowl was impressive. I will say I made just a regular batch of corn chowder, and
I
even
should
still, I
have.
was eating chowder for
Yeah.
days after that.
Yeah, it was a very bad choice on my
I can
part. It's not smart.
only imagine what you went through. But I thought it was nice, just kind of more of a chill hangout, which
Yeah,
was fine. You know, that's
totally.
never a bad thing to get together with
No.
friends. And aside from that, yesterday I got an adventure in home ownership as our kitchen sink has not been draining well lately. And like we
Uh-oh.
have the double. So like as one would go down, one would come up. And I'm like,
Oh
hey,
no.
did some Googling, said that you should probably try snaking it because, and we've been here for, I don't know, a lot of years at this point.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, food and grease and junk is probably built up in there.
Sure.
So I tried to go the cheap way. I drove to town and I bought one of the handheld snakes, which has a turn crank, and you do this for so long, and it's
Oh,
terrible until you throw your shoulder out. And
yep.
that didn't seem to be doing much. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go spend the extra money, get one that goes on a drill that's longer, and just keep going. And I had to drill that thing like 4 or 5 times. And granted, part of it was just learning how to do it properly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a whole day thing. Thankfully, knock on wood. Now the drain does seem to be working better.
Yay.
So it was a success, and it was a lot, even having to buy two snakes was a lot cheaper than actually calling a plumber.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah.
so home ownership success, and now I have the tools for next time in 15 years when I clog it again.
Nice.
I also like when I went to the grocery store, excited to do that too yesterday. I saw one of those things you put in your drain that's like a
Yeah.
strainer to collect the food. We've
Yeah.
never had one. And I was like, yes,
You've
$1.19. I'm
never
buying
had
it.
one?
No, like we have the ones that plug the sink, but no, yeah. We've definitely probably put way too much food down the drain. And now,
I was gonna say
after
we
paying for
definitely
that, I'm over it.
my parents had gotten us some because we used to have just like a little like rubber one
Hmm.
or silicone whatever and they got us one that's like it goes a little flusher and the to the sink and there's like a chainmail net
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love those things. I mean, they get disgusting, but like it's the trade-off is that I don't have a bunch of food in my drain.
It is a better trade-off. And you could throw those out every 6 months and it'd still be cheaper than having to deal with
Right,
trade problems. So
right.
smart investments. Yeah. So on that note, this is your every episode reminder to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. As
Hey.
I keep everything just keeps getting pushed back. I'm like, okay, this week I'm going to put a couple episodes on YouTube, but like now that we know we're doing it, if we have a pause or like we have to take a break or something like that, I make notes of it as I'm recording. Like,
Oh,
hey,
that's
here's a part you
smart.
need to like edit
Yeah.
out, so people don't watch one of us picking our nose while the other one is running to go to the bathroom or get another drink or take
Yeah.
the dog out, whatever. And I didn't obviously do that for our older episodes, so I need to
Dude.
actually watch them,
Mm.
which is a lot more of a commitment
It is
that
a
I
lot more.
just don't want to make right now.
Totally understandable.
So it will be my winter project, but we did get a comment, shout out you commenter, asking where the other 100 episodes were.
Oh, okay. We just
We'll get
started
there
at 100.
eventually.
Like,
Yeah, sorry, we're
that's how we
really
count here in this
bad at this. We
podcast.
may look young, but we're olds at heart, trust me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can follow us on all three of those, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Adult Book Club 21. It is Adult Book Club, all one word, and the number 21, not for your age, but for the year we started, which does make anniversaries much easier to remember. And on that
Hmm.
note, we get back to the book, which is once again, I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. Again, really hope I'm saying that right. I'm gonna try to stay away from that name, but I'll start the paragraph off like this. Sepetys began her career by launching an entertainment magazine firm for songwriters and recording artists in LA in 1994. She was featured in Rolling Stone's magazine. She was featured in Rolling Stone magazine's 2002 special issue titled Women in Rock. Her first novel was published in 2011 and is titled Between Shades of Grey. She describes herself as a seeker of lost stories who tries to give voice to those who weren't able to tell them. Her five solo novels are all historical fiction that use fictional characters to shed light on real events that she feels have not been spotlighted enough. Her most recent novel was published in 2024 titled The Bletchley Riddle and is a YA story co-written with Steve Sheenkin, dealing with the cracking of Enigma in England during World War II. So, and I will say, all the books focus on different parts of the world, which is interesting too, in different time periods. So it's not like she just found her niche in Eastern Bloc communism and stayed there. She definitely goes all around. So definitely, if you're into historical fictions, at least as far as this is concerned, spoilers before the book goes in, it seems like she really knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she put a lot of research in. So
Yeah,
I
which
assume she did that with all the books.
no, it's just a new thing. She's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to research this one. Fuck it. So on that note, Tasha, if you want to read us the jacket, we'll jump into the story.
Okay, Romania, 1989. Communist regimes are crumbling across Europe. 17-year-old Cristian Florescu dreams of becoming a writer, but Romanians aren't free to dream. They are bound by rules and force. Amid the tyrannical dictatorship of Nicolae Cosescu? In a country governed by isolation and fear, Christian is blackmailed by the secret police to become an informer. He's left with only two choices: betray everyone and everything he loves, or use his position to creatively undermine the most notoriously evil dictator in Eastern Europe. Christian risks everything to unmask the truth behind the regime, give voice to fellow Romanians, and expose to the world what is happening in his country. He eagerly joins the revolution to fight for change when the time arrives. But what is the cost of freedom? Master storyteller Ruta Sepetys is back with a historical thriller that examines the little-known history of a nation defined by silence, pain, and the unwavering conviction of the human spirit.
Nice. Um,
Tough word.
so what's that?
Some tough names.
Yes. Romanian, not the easiest language to uh, pronounce. So, our main character in the story, as you said, is Cristian Florescu. What did you think of him?
He was super easy to root for, to like. He was very just like, I wrote he was smart and brave. Um, and like, I think so often when we read stories with young protagonists, it's easy to be, um, I don't know, it's easy to have somebody be like above their station or just like so much better at things. And he seemed like a very real representation of a coming of age kid.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't uh have like excessive naivete. He had like the right amount given the situation. And he had a lot of conviction and a lot of really great connections with the people around him. Yeah, I immediately liked him. He was awesome.
Same. And I think you touched on it perfectly before we started recording. Like it's almost sad that he doesn't exist. Like
Right? Like I
realizing
really
this is
want him to be real.
historical fiction instead of nonfiction was like a bit of a bummer because he was such a good character. And I think she did really well giving us a full picture of him. Like,
Totally.
while this was obviously focusing on Romania and the difficulties there, we also had Christian dealing with his family and dealing with his school and dealing with his first crush love situation and his friends. And then on
Yeah,
top of that, you have the crushing feeling of always being watched and not knowing who you can trust. And like, if she had just focused on that, yes, it would probably be more. I mean, it's already pretty tension filled, but it would probably be more of that. But you don't wouldn't have the same human connection to him. You wouldn't
yeah,
see the full picture of him, even if
yeah.
you got the parts of him wanting to be a writer and all that other thing. So I think she did a really good job of painting his whole world and giving us, like you said, even though he knew parts of what was going on, there was still that naivete of the things he couldn't see, he still kind of believed both in his country and outside of it. Like they talk about how they smuggled in VHS tapes that they would watch, and they just believed it was all Hollywood magic because nobody could have that much food or buildings couldn't be that big or whatever it was that they were watching. They just he couldn't believe it because it was so different from what he was living in. And I think she just gave us the perfect carrier to bring us through the end of communism there, but someone who had lived through his entire life in it and seen how it kind of continued to weigh him down the older he got.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think he's just the perfect embodiment of a revolutionary,
Yeah,
that situation of somebody who has still their whole life in front of them and recognizes that there is something better, different that should be available.
yeah. Yeah, the
Um,
feeling of wanting more. And we'll get into characters later on the other ones, but I think that was a big part with his grandfather Bunu, uh, having lived outside of communism before and being able to like stoke that fire
yeah,
within Christian to be like, there is something more. You should want a future because what you have here, like there's no future here. You will work until you die. Like both, or at least his dad worked two jobs. Like I think his mom did too. Like
yeah,
it was just work and it was remedial work. And for somebody who
right.
was a creative and a thinker and wanted to be a philosopher, kind of like his grandfather was before,
Yeah.
there's no future in communist Romania for that. So I appreciated that he's dealing with so many different struggles, not just on a personal sense, but then you have the familial, dealing with what's going to happen to them, and then you have everything else. It was so much, and I thought he was the perfect vehicle to bring us in there. And as you pointed out, like yes, he's a younger character. He's 17 at the time, and I will make this point every time since we watched, or yeah, since we read Spin the Dawn. He
Ugh,
was a believable 17-year-old. And granted,
absolutely.
it's a historical fiction, so obviously he's not going to become Spider-Man. But I just thought it was really great to give us his complete picture and give us just somebody to root for, even though the book and just reading the back there is about him turning informant and the
Yeah.
struggle of dealing with that because he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. So
Well, and that's just like the him turning into an informant is basically the reality of the time and the space. Like almost everybody is against everybody.
yeah,
Just the yeah, she did a really good job painting the entire picture, and I think, like you said, he's the perfect vehicle. He's very believable and very you want you want him to succeed. Like you
yeah.
really get invested in his situation.
Yeah. And speaking of that situation, our book is set in 1989, communist Romania. I was wondering what you thought of the world she transported us to, which was real life in 1989 Romania.
Yeah, I mean, I have basically like zero basis of understanding. Like I didn't know anything about communist Romania
Yeah.
other than it that was the situation. Like I think we joked before about the only thing I have is the joke of like in communist Russia, car drives you. And that feels like the most applicable situation. I guess that this, I think she painted a really good picture and brought more humanity than historical. Not to say it isn't historical, but just it's not factual from a history book, like a
Yeah.
textbook. It's more like the human aspect of what it was like to be a citizen in this place. And it really like puts into perspective how many things we take as Westerners for granted. Um, like a fully stocked grocery store and just like the fridge, just the wealth of options and things that are easily accessible
Yeah.
to most. I mean, granted, we still have problems,
Yeah.
many of them here, but I mean, like you'd said before we started recording, it's a late 80s. Like it's wild to think that the kinds of things that were happening there could happen at that time, and it isn't something from like way earlier.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like something stuck in time or lost in time where the world has progressed and it's just stayed squashed, which not for nothing was kind of the point of the dickwad leaders.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think she did an amazing job painting the picture because it really felt like you were there.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I came across this book as a recommendation from Goodreads based on my other reads. So no idea going into it about anything. Just kind of read a little bit about it, saw it. It got really good reviews, and was like, okay, let's go for it. So the only thing I knew about the book was that little snippet I read last episode to kind of give you an idea, and it was like you'll feel the stress or you'll feel the pressure of being watched, and she definitely gives you that. And I thought it was incredible how the book was written, how she interspersed the reports from the secret police
Mhm.
in there, where it talks about not just the reports that Christiane has given, but also people reporting on him. So we kind of get a peek behind the curtain in a way where you don't know who it is because they all have
Right.
code names for their informants, but you know that they saw him with Liliana doing this, and obviously he wouldn't report on that. So it's like, okay, so who's actually watching him this? And you're trying to remember like
It makes
who
you
is who
suspicious.
was in the area then, who did that or who put the
Who
American
could have
currency in
seen
his
it?
stamp collection,
Yeah.
etc. So I thought she did a great job of painting a picture where you literally couldn't trust anyone. Like the only one I was 100% sure we could trust was Bunu
Yeah.
because he was openly speaking out. And if he was a double agent, that, would have been
That would have been
incredible.
wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spoilers before spoilers. He wasn't. Uh, I thought, as you said, the thing that blew me away is that this happened in her lifetime. Like when they were talking about the ration cards, especially, and basically how
Mhm.
they had their family of five, but Bunu is sick and basically like bedridden. So it's four of them. And it's like, okay, Christiane, 3 days a week before school, you will go stand in line and wait for bread or potatoes or whatever we can get. And Cece, the sister, when you're coming back from work 3 days a week, you will stand in line. And mom will do this and dad will do this. And whatever. And like you have to stand in different lines for different things. So there could be two or three of you standing in line at any time. And like my only experience reading about that has really been about like World War II during
Mhm.
rationing and stuff like that, where, okay, there's something, obviously, the world is at war. So
Right.
everything's fucked up right now, right?
And that was
But
40 years earlier,
yeah,
like
and 50. And
plus.
then
Yeah, exactly.
and
Good
this
point.
is self-inflicted by the
Yeah.
Romanian government. Like this didn't need to be the case, but
Yeah.
because of keeping their people
Greed.
contained in Romania and docile and under their thumb was the only way to stay in power, that's how they went about it. So it's just as you dig more into the world he's living in and realizing this is the decision of a few very powerful people that are affecting 30 million. Uh,
Right.
it's wild. And then you hear about the face that I don't know if I should try to say it's Kusaku, I
I
think.
know, right? Like,
Yeah. Terrible, terrible name. Next time when you're a bad guy, come on, just choose
yeah,
like
get an easier name. Smith.
Abbotsford. Uh, anyway, but you hear about the face he painted when he went out met
Yeah.
other leaders and
Yeah.
has pictures with multiple presidents of the United States and in Disneyland. And I appreciated at the end how she added those there where you could put
Yeah.
a face to this name, as obviously he was the historical part of the historical fiction. But just as you read more and more about what they're going through, understanding that this happened again in our lifetime, even though we were sweet
Mhm.
babes, it's just wild to think that this is something that, as American, very learned children, I mean, one of us has a degree from college. This is something we never even heard about,
Right.
and that kind of blows my mind about our educational system. And not blaming the teachers; it's not your fault, I know, but the
But the
system in
system is
general.
cool.
And I can understand where maybe you don't want to talk about people overthrowing their governments in a recent day and age, especially nowadays. So I understand. I don't understand, but whatever. My point is, I thought she did a really good job. My very long-winded point is that I thought she did a really good job of putting us there.
Yeah.
And even though I think there was a snippet of me being like, okay, like you said, like I could understand somewhat of being in a communist country, sure, based on other things I've heard and
Yeah.
whatever. It just kept snowballing. Where you're like, and this too, and this too, like
Yeah.
insane.
Like I don't have the fortitude to survive in a situation like that, I think. I mean, obviously, like if for Christian, it's all he knows.
Right.
But like people like Bunu to I would probably have been like, peace.
Yeah.
I just like don't it's so hard to hear the stories of the people who are living through it in both regards. The ones who don't know any different, but are kind of like seeing things from the Western world and being like, maybe there's something else. And the people like Buna who'd seen what it or who'd lived through what it was before and then are stuck in this situation. It's just totally crazy. I can't say enough how good of a job she did. I mean, again, like I didn't know anything about this historical event, but I really felt transported to the time and place.
And I think even Bunu said at one point, like it wasn't this bad during World War II.
Yeah, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was just yeah, the details again. And I was just looking over my notes here, like the fact that they had the rabid dogs because you couldn't pay to feed them. So what you did is you fed one or two for protection of your neighborhood, and then the rest of the time you carried a stick around. Like that, them seeing that little girl be attacked by a dog, just in the in the streets because it
In
was
the
hungry.
wild.
Yeah, was fucking why? Why is that happening in
Totally crazy.
1999? It was again, it's just I'll keep coming like the fact that it was a thing. The fact that they were so nervous about listening devices that they would whisper every time. And
And
if they
like,
had something really big to say, they'd put a pillow over the phone and then whisper even quieter further away, or you'd go outside, or you'd write it down and then burn it so there was no evidence. Like,
but then even when you think you're being safe and cautious, there's still somebody who might see you. Like the fact that the Christian and Lily were like having that Coke together, Coca-Cola together, and somebody was still able to see that. And the fact that like that very simple thing is effectively like contraband
yeah,
and could get you into so much trouble is just, I mean, I don't think there's been any other podcast where we've said that's wild so much, but
yeah.
that's the name of this podcast. That's wild.
Episode 107. That's wild. Um, and then, and again, just kind of completing the picture, I appreciated that she even brought us to the schools. Like, similar
Yeah,
to Christiane, she gave us a full picture where it
whole
was, through his sister and his
aspects of
parents.
life.
Yeah, we see like what working is, and through him, we get through the
Yeah,
school picture and
yeah.
just being a kid trying to survive, and we see the relationship and like, yeah, it was just
And
all of it was really incredible.
super incredible. And also the tidbits she gave us of sort of like the juxtaposition of like what's normal for Christian, kind of intersecting with like the Western stuff, like when the ambassador's son Dan takes him to the library. And the people at the library are like interacting in such a different way. He's like, wow, like people are like speaking, they're not whispering, and they're like, it was such an interesting way to kind of show the differences
Yeah.
in people's behavior in whatever is the normalcy of things.
And again, just the naivete of the West. First of all, like the ambassador who was there, like Dan and his dad, the Van Dorns, they're like emissaries or something like that. But they're
Yeah,
not actually ambassadors because the last ambassador tried to tell everybody how bad it was and nobody
right.
believed him, so he quit.
Right.
And then the president or something, they did something for with Romania with the leader. the president of the US, and I think it was Ford maybe or Nixon was like, okay, but we're gonna like make this library and it's free to all your people. Any Romanians could go in there. And when Christian hears that, he's like, but why would we? If we go in here, he's only going in there because he's an informant on Dan, so it's okay.
Right.
But if he wasn't and he went in there, he's immediately at the top of every list. Like, why are you trying to get information, right? And
Right.
yeah, even the secretary or whatever, the person, the librarian, the person at the desk, he doesn't know if he can trust them. You
Well,
know?
and the conversation, I think he has it with Dan, or maybe it's with the librarian, where it's like, you can go in there. Like,
Yeah.
you're allowed to go in. And he's like, I don't think I
Yeah.
am.
No. Yeah, that's just a lie they tell you. So
Yeah.
incredible.
Again, wild.
And like the fact that this is where it stands so much better than a textbook is
Mm.
as you're reading it through his eyes, you are
Putting
understanding
yourself
a
in
lot
his,
more. Yeah,
yeah,
putting yourself in there. Where if you just read the textbook, that was like, oh, there was a library, but nobody went in. Like, why? Okay.
right,
I don't
right.
understand the stress he was living in.
Exactly.
So moving on, we have a supporting cast of characters. I wanted to focus on three of them, pre-spoilers, that being Christian's grandfather Bunu, his sister Cece, and his, they're basically dating girlfriend Liliana. So what did you make of them and their relationship with Christiane?
Um, well, I wrote that they're all, I wrote Bruno is a hero, Cece is a hero, Liliana is a hero. They're all awesome.
Yeah.
Very strong characters and super relatable, like desires and attitudes. I think we talked a bit already about Bunu, but I think he was really important to have as kind of a guiding light for Christiane of um hope
Yeah.
and like the holding on to the past and what Romania used to be or could be again kind of thing. I think without that um source in his life, Christian probably wouldn't have developed in the same way that he did.
Yeah.
And I think it was obviously really important to Bunu to have somebody like Christian in his family that he could, I don't want to say mold because I don't think he was doing it entirely like that. I think he
Yeah.
was just sharing um his knowledge and so forth. And obviously they had a great relationship. But I think that that's like a very like transformative figure to have in
Yeah, and especially as we learned the past few years, like his mother is basically paranoid by fear.
right.
So she's just refuses to
He's like
even,
locked down.
yeah, refuses to even make the jokes. Like they tell jokes. I forget the name they use, but instead
Mm.
of kusaku, they have like, did you hear about whatever Bartlett last week? And they tell the joke, and it's pointed at Romania, but it's not kind of situation. Obviously, his mother would like die rather than do something like that. And a few years ago, his dad went utterly moot, basically, where he just stopped everything, just became a shell of the person he once was, to the point where Christiane like doesn't even really remember him as
Yeah.
something else because of this, I don't know, facsimile of what he used to be, comes to life. So Bunu was the one there that their relationship was somebody that, in a world where even his grandfather tells him you can't have a confidant, he is Christiane's confidant
Yeah.
because he speaks out so brazenly. And he's not like, they make it a point at one point where he tells Christiane something and he's surprised because he realizes that Bunu is whispering. Because he would
He
even,
doesn't do that.
yeah, he never does that. And he speaks his mind and he speaks out. And he once had a very powerful voice, but he's been bedridden with this illness that they believe is leukemia, that came on him suddenly. And so he's not as big anymore because he just can't be out there, but he's still kind of giving that to Christiane. And like you said, yeah, he's not molding him. He is just kind of like feeding him that, like, hope, I think, is the biggest thing. Like telling him, don't settle for this. And you're right,
Right.
without him, I think Christiane wouldn't look up. To put it
Yeah.
simply, like he would be just head down, I'm trying to survive, and this is my life. And
I
that's all
th
I have.
I think having like the role model of somebody who does stand up and stand fast with like he's very um he sticks to his convictions, Bunu does. And I think that having that person in his life is so critical because like you can't as a kid, I don't think that revolutionary spark is necessarily like already existent. Or if it is, it's not, you can't really fan the flames if you have nobody there to show you how to do it or to like do it in whatever way they're doing it and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is something that I can do in my way."
And I think
Sorry.
we kind of see what his life would be like without Bunu later on when
Mm.
they hear about the revolution starting in a different city, or there's protests,
Yeah.
and he's like all excited to go to school and talk about it, and nobody will
Nobody
talk about it.
does.
So it is, you need somebody in your corner that is kind of,
Modeling the behavior.
yeah, and giving you a chance to. There's something to be said about having somebody to bounce
An
ideas off of and
outlet.
all that.
Yeah.
Because like if we try to do everything ourselves, there's only so far we can go.
Right.
So it does help to have somebody who believes in you and gives you that. And I think where Bunu was the one that like helped him mentally, I think his sister Cece was the one who helped him emotionally. Like
Yeah.
she seemed to be, for all intents and purposes, the one raising him that was still actually in some sort of sound mind, in a way. Even though she was working to the bone, she was making sure, because she was a seamstress, she was making sure that he had his clothes were
Yeah.
proper, and she would kind of became his confidant for his relationship with Liliana. And
Hmm.
the thing I found interesting about her is, even though we only stayed in Christiane's point of view, we learn that her life, as she's like 20, maybe 22,
Hmm.
as a young woman in Romania, if you think it's hard on Christiane, it's 10 times harder for her because of all the expectations put on her, because she can have children and she needs to be
Right.
a fertile mother for Romania and bring the next forest workforce up that will be able to pick the crops and send out our bountiful wealth around the world.
So gross.
So I thought it was impressive how strong she remained. And we only see it through Christiane's eyes, which I think is fair, that we don't actually know the full set of horrors and stress and pain that she deals with on a daily basis, as she's dealing with all the same things and then worse.
Yeah. 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 She was a really, really good character too. I think having sort of the strong female big sister person is important to a lot of stories. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think she was I don't really want to like say too much about her, I
We will
guess,
get
because
more
I feel
into
like
her
there's
in
yeah.
spoilers for sure. And that leaves us with Liliana. What'd you make of his girlfriend eventually?
So cute.
Yeah.
It was just really sweet how he talked about her like before they started going steady or whatever. Because it seemed like a kind of a long time coming. Like he'd seen her, at school and like wanted to talk to her more and did stupid boy things and
Yeah.
is kind of making up for it. And of course she was like, yeah, I always knew because she's
Yeah.
not a dummy. But I also really like how um I understand the suspicion that happened with both of them because, like we talked about before, that's just the norm.
Yeah.
But that she had a similar strength to her.
Yeah. For sure.
And they were very like-minded and um I guess rebellious. But
I liked how, and we see another student who's even more of a loner, but they were kind of loners. Like, Christian had his best friend Luca, who's been his
uh
best friend forever, and they live in these apartment buildings, and they're across the street from each other. So they've been together for years and years and years. And Liliana has always been there too, but again, because he's a dumb boy, when she did something nice to him like 2 or 3 years ago, gave him some gum or something, he had to
yeah,
act cool like he didn't like it, even though he like was
he
buzzing
did.
about it for
Yeah,
weeks because he's an idiot,
because
because
he's a tool.
men
Yeah.
are idiots. Uh, so I liked that their relationship started really quickly in the book, because I
Yeah,
thought like it gave us another level. And I think you see them both grow together, where even just going to
totally.
movie night, which
Yep.
is them watching these illegal VHSs, which is a big deal. Liliana had never really gone, but she agrees to go with Christiane, which is kind of
Yeah.
their first date. So I liked that it happened quickly, that they had each other, and then that it played a big part in their decisions. And like you
Hmm.
said, that not just the suspicion, but also what they were fighting for, who they were
Right.
fighting for, and kind of as they were navigating their way through this shit show of communism, trying to figure out how they could create a future. I thought that was important to have somebody for him to hold on to outside of his family.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like their relationship and I agree. I'm glad it like happened quickly and that there was like already a history with them, so
Yeah.
it felt realistic. You're not getting just like a oop, all of a sudden there's romance.
Oh, there's a new girl in town. Really? In communist Romania, people are moving to
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, I like that there was history that like between them that we didn't see as readers, so it made
Yeah.
it feel um yeah, it made it feel so much more
Organic.
yeah, organic and like full of depth.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, they were awesome. I liked all of the relationships that he had. Like, and we didn't add this. I don't think we talk about Luca. But I also really liked his relationship with him and how they kind of drifted apart or were sort of like wedged apart by the
Yeah.
situation. Um,
And I mean, I think that's early enough on that we could touch on it
yeah,
pre-spoilers. Like he believes very
yeah,
early on because he
Luca's the one
Christian becomes an informant like chapter two.
right away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And basically he has to inform on the diplomat and his son is the
right.
big thing because they think he'll be a connection to the son, which can get him into their home, which can they can learn more about this American family because that's obviously a threat. They're outsiders.
Yeah,
They use Bunu and his sickness to kind of
trap him.
yeah, trap him and be like, first of all, we'll probably tell everybody you're an informant. If you don't do it, even if you aren't, they're going to believe us. But
Right.
also, if you do help us, we will give your grandfather the medicine he needs. So he falls begrudgingly into that. And he learns it's because somebody talked about his stamp collection because he had met the ambassador's son or whatever, the diplomat's son, Dan, and they had traded stamps. And then in his stamps collection, he found like an American bill, which foreign currency is a huge no-no.
Right.
And somebody ratted him out about that. The only person he had shown that to was Luca. So
Right.
this again, this friend from childhood, immediately he becomes suspicious of, and their relationship completely changes for like 2 months
Yeah, it's
early
quite
on.
a long stretch.
And I liked that too, as you're talking about. We didn't even go into their history, but we knew it
Right.
was there. And even as readers, because we're obviously going to side with Christian, I think we're put in a place where we don't trust Luca either.
For sure. Especially because, like you were saying before, like the little bits of the reports, like the government reports, you're getting information about Christian that we're like, who did this?
Yeah.
So you're definitely made to feel suspicious of everybody as well, which really, again, puts you in the shoes of somebody who was there. Stop driving so fast.
I thought you were making eyes at Bryce the whole time.
Well, I have been
Okay,
because she's been standing by the door, so I do have to go let her out.
that's fine. We can pause.
Okay, BRB.
Hard cut back in for all you YouTubers. And I think just closing up on Luca, we'll touch more on him. Wow. We'll touch more on him post spoilers. So before we get there, we have your get to know your podcaster question. And didn't really want to find levity in this as
Fair.
hey, put yourself in these shoes. So just kind of going more deep into what we've already been discussing. I was wondering if there's anything specific that stood out to you or surprised you as far as how Christian and the other Romanians were living, knowing that it was only 1989, if there was one specific incident that stood out to you more than the others.
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to say because we've been talking about
Yeah.
it so much already that I feel like most of what I wrote down in my notes we've covered. Um, but just like the knowledge that the the lack of knowledge about the outside world that everybody had was, I think, the most shocking part because, like you said before we started recording, like it's a different time. Like the internet wasn't really a thing,
Mm.
but it is so close to now, like it was in our lifetime, that it's hard to imagine being in their shoes or Christian's shoes and like you said, watching those videos and being like, this is all fantasy
Yeah.
because it seems so not real. It seems so different from what they're living. And that's just wild. And like the magazines and stuff that he was seeing when he went to the library and how kind of the recognition of the lies that they've been told. Um, I think that was kind of the most intense. I mean, I guess it wasn't shocking because that's kind of what communism and like the state run, oh hey dog, state run stuff is like, what I imagine North Korea is like, very similar in terms of suppressing outside thoughts and views and information. But yeah, I think it was just the things that I take for granted as being like simple or commonplace and recognizing that they didn't know, not even understand it, but just like know.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah, for me it was Christiane's like uh focus obsession, that's the word I was looking for,
Yeah.
about bananas.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we talk about just the
Yeah.
things we take for granted, the fact that he wanted to know what a banana tastes like. And supposedly they had him when he was younger, but fruit was a big thing that was almost impossible to get in Romania, to the point where for his 14th birthday, I think he said, his family bought banana scented soap, or shampoo
Right.
that they found. And he admits to Liliana that he even
Ate some
tasted
of
a little bit of it to
it.
see if it reminded him of anything or tasted like bananas. And later on, when he sees the video that Dan's friends sent him from home, and he's
The
like, the
bowl
bananas
cut.
are just sitting there and they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting how he could focus on something that especially is something we don't think about. Like I
Oh,
probably have a banana a day, and I never really think about somebody who never has. It also reminded me when we were in Rwanda a couple of years ago, like the boys, they were playing a game, and like the older boys who have grown up from the home came, and it was part of our party. So they got them, it was the flipping the bottle thing. And if you did it, you got to choose like a little prize. So it was like there's a sweet donut, you could have some soda, or there was boiled eggs. And the amount of boys who got so excited for an egg blew my mind. And it was just something that, again, we don't think about, but for them, that's like such a treat. So it's that kind of stuff that's kind of why I think I was so focused on the banana, was it's just
yeah.
thing that seems so ordinary to us. You have no idea what that means to somebody else. And it's
Well,
same
and
thing when they tasted the Coke and they explained how it made them feel, and like how they were dealing with a sugar high as they went to
yeah.
the movie because of this fizzy drink that they, that Liliana had gotten for Christmas and was like
Right.
saving for a special occasion.
Right. Yeah, I think kind of goes back a little bit to what you'd said before too about the sort of realization that the bountiful crops that are
Yeah,
supposedly growing in Romania are they're not seeing the benefits of it. But similarly, like with the banana, um, it is kind of hard to reconcile our, I guess, privilege of being able to go to a grocery store and get a bunch of food that is absolutely not in season or not possible to be grown in the region that we are.
yeah,
Um, and that alone is kind of wild to think about because, like, even if they were able to access or have access to the crops that were growing there, the real outlier would be those things that come from afar.
yeah,
Um, in terms of like natural,
yeah. And
natural,
for them, it was just literally potatoes, onions, like
right? The
chicken
things that grow
chicken
there.
feet and pig
Yeah,
feet, because the rest of it was for the outside world. That
right,
was, because people wanted Romanian
right.
meat, according to their government. Two other things that just blew my mind. One, and you see this in other governments where they're trying to push their own agenda, where they talk about birthing rates. And kind of touched on it a little bit with Cece and the pressure she's feeling, being 22 and not having any children yet, not even having a boyfriend. That was like there was people pressuring her, like you need to do better for your country. And we see it with Liliana's family, because they have, or sorry, no, it was Luca's family, because they have
What,
5 children. Their mother was given a medal. And Christiane touches on the fact that if you have 10 children, you are given the title of like benevolent mother or something. I forget the exact words, but like that is like the highest level you could achieve as a woman in Romania, is to have 10 children, which is just insane. Wild.
insane, especially because it's not as though looking at you, US, there's any assistance
Yeah.
given to families that are that large. Like, yes, they're really pushing for all these women to keep popping out babies, but there's no, um, what is the word I'm looking for?
Follow up? There's
There's
no
no
care.
incentive. There's
Yeah.
no incentive for them to do that other than this medal, which is effectively like winning Great British Bake Off and only getting the pie plate. Like, you're not getting anything that is going to help, like, these people, these women are not getting anything that's going to help these kids survive,
Right.
which is, I would think, the whole freaking point of trying to get them to have kids is to have a workforce that can grow up to actually work. And if you're not feeding people, how are they going to work for you? Just
Yep.
the logic of all of that is bonk town.
And to be fair, by this point, communism had been like 20 something years in Romania. So I feel like maybe at first it was working out better for the
Sure.
leaders, but I
But
feel
then
like at
over
some point
time,
they get lazy and they're like, oh, it'll be fine. Well, we just got to keep making our money and go from there. I forgot what the other thing I was going to say was. So we'll see if it comes up again or not. But yeah, that was yeah, just
that's
wow. And
crazy.
again, just that little bit, that little observance by Christiane gives us a bigger peek behind the curtain of what was actually happening and
Totally.
how women were so much more affected in
Yeah,
there. Like again, you think your life is tough. Hold on to your butts.
right.
So, on that note, we're going to move into spoilers. And before we do that, we have your song. It goes like this. This is the pot that we're going into spoilers. If you don't know the book, get out. And I actually mean it this time because if you're a friend of mine, I'm gonna want you to read this book.
Same.
So,
Bye.
not great for the audience, but get out, guys. If you have no interest in historical fiction, stay, but also get out. I'm on to you. Because
It's
this is
also
the
so
pot.
good it doesn't feel like historical
It's so
fiction.
true. And this is the pot that we're going into spoilers. It's time to learn what this book is all about. Who's an informant? So, those of you left. After his grandfather is beaten to death by the secret police, Christian struggles with the pressure of being an informant and not knowing who to trust now that his only confidant is gone. Liliana had confronted Christian with a note claiming to know that he was an informant, and before he passed, his grandfather said that the rats were inside of the apartment already. He tries to continue his life, but he becomes isolated from everyone, fearing constantly that he will be discovered and wondering who was the one who informed on him and Liliana. He continues to see the son of the U.S. emissary, Dan Van Dorn, and through this relationship, he learns about the wealth of America and the lies his government has been telling him about countries outside of Romania. As more communist countries fall, Christian believes Romania's time is getting close and decides to give his secret notebook to Dan's father in order to get the truth out about living here. He leaves it on the father's desk and signs it anonymously. Afterwards, he learns that Dan will not be returning to Romania after going back to the US for Christmas, and when he informs on this, he knows he is no longer needed by the secret police. With nowhere else to turn, he confides in his best friend Luca, who he previously believed was informing on him. With sparks of revolution happening in Romania, the two agree to keep each other informed of any new developments they get. Christian is still bothered by not knowing who informed on him and follows his sister one day and confirms his suspicions of her as she meets with the same secret police person that he did. Christian is broken and runs home, but is stopped by Luca telling him a protest is happening right now. The two go and meet up with a large group of college students who begin marching in the streets, collecting people of all ages from their homes and when they get out of work. A peaceful demonstration happens in the square outside the palace, but the army shows up and begins firing on the population. Luca is injured, but before he knows what happens to him, Christian is beaten unconscious and taken prisoner. After the beating at the police station, he gets into a van where he sees Liliana is tied up in there with other Romanians. They are taken to an infamous prison with hundreds of dissenters, but the group rallies together to get the children out with bribes of cigarettes to the guards. Christiane Liliana, Liliana and the children are put back in the van and brought to a juvenile detention center back in the city. While the guards are distracted, Christiane is able to escape to spread the word about the children and get help. He tells people in his block about Liliana and then heads to the hospital where he finds Luca is alive but in critical condition. Christiane's sister is there as well, but he yells at her and refuses to forgive her. She leaves, agreeing to try and help Liliana. When Christiane sees Luca, his parents ask him to go home and protect their four other children, which he does. When he awakes, they help him home, and he learns Liliana has been returned to her family as well. She comes to him she comes to him as he is recovering, and together they learn the army has switched sides and stands with the people. A few days later, they watch on the television as the communist leader and his wife are executed for crimes against humanity. Romania is still unsafe, and it takes a while for it to calm down. During those days of insecurity, they find his sister's body beaten, and shot to death in an alley. The book ends with an epilogue telling us that Christiane became a teacher and Liliana a bookseller. More than 20 years after the revolution, the secret police records are unsealed, and Christiane learns that his family was under heavy surveillance because his grandfather was a dangerous dissenter, and at one point they had more than 50 people informing on them. But the one that shocks him the most is when he learns that his mother was a willing informant. Which, good use of an epilogue there. I won't shit on that for once.
No, the epilogue was cool. I liked when he talked to that at like his high school
Yeah.
reunion or whatever, and like the other kid who'd stood up and was like, "I'm an informant," and he was like, "I'm so sorry that like we didn't do anything."
He's like, you probably don't remember me otherwise. He's like, I remember that none of us helped you. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy where you're in that moment. In that moment, we see Christiane. It's like, I'm also an
Holy
informer,
shit.
but I
Yeah.
can't say anything about, like, I know exactly what you're feeling. I hope
Right.
not to be you someday.
Yeah.
I can offer you nothing. So yeah, I feel like there's many different ways we can go here, and it was kind of difficult to come up with questions. So we'll see how this goes. But I wanted to start with the relationship between Christiane and Cece, as we can talk more fully about it, and just how he handled finding out that she was an informant and his reaction to it. I was wondering what you thought of that.
I thought his reaction was incredibly believable. I can totally understand being so hurt because he really looked up to her and she really cared for him like a great older sibling. And yeah, I think the sense of betrayal would be really strong and it'd be hard to maybe see or keep seeing how much she cares about him through the betrayal. So yeah, I think very realistic. I can absolutely understand his reaction of like, um, I don't know, sh like pushing her away because of course, like what else would you do? I also I think it his his hurt kind of made it impossible for him to see what was really going on, that like she was also in a similar boat to his own, perhaps worse, like you'd said before, because she was under different kind of pressure or additional pressure. Um, so I think it was really a bummer when they found her body. It was really sad that she died. And that he kind of realizes that had he maybe done something different, or the reason that she wanted him to stay at the hospital was not necessarily like safer for him. It was safer for her. And like I I get it. I
Yeah.
get why he reacted the way he did, but it was sad.
I the timing of it, this was a little bowish because I think if it had
Sure.
happened a week before the revolution kicks off in earnest, there might have been a chance for him to cool down.
Yeah.
Like it all kind of happens in like a day or two. I couldn't exactly
Very
remember
fast.
it was very fast.
Yeah.
So I was just a little upset that because of their relationship, and a big part of it is obviously his trust is broken. He knows that like she informed on him about the Springsteen article,
Right.
specifically that Dan had given him and that he was going to give to Liliana, and then it was missing, and he
And
finds it
the
later.
was it the dollar as well? Because
Well, the
wasn't there
doll, yeah. So, but he thought the dollar was from her as well, but that wasn't. We learned later on in the
that it
end that
was
that
the
was his
mom?
mother that did that
Yeah.
to him, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah,
He's
he thinks it's her, right?
Yeah, because he obviously doesn't expect his mother, so he thinks Cece's the one that's been
Doing all of it.
doing all the informing, and like also then maybe seeing that side of where Bunu was attacked and killed, like maybe she led to that. Like his mind is too. You're so
Paranoid.
paranoid and you're
Yeah.
so stressed about everything you're doing, and then the one person who has really been there for you, been that emotional pillar, you learn isn't right, and you don't give them the chance to explain, but you immediately pin all this bad
All
shit
of the
on them.
things. Kind of
And
like what he did with Luca,
right,
too. Yeah.
so this is just Christian. He's not as good as we thought. But also like his relationship with Liliana went to shit
Yeah.
because the
She
coke,
finds
she gets
out.
it, they inform about the coke, and then the bones, the meat bones that her dad brings home for the dogs to keep them
The
on their
dogs.
side, the two dogs that
Yeah.
they have, and I think there was another thing. And she's like, I didn't tell anybody but you. And he realizes that he had told Cece. So yeah,
Right.
I completely understand the hurt. I just wish he at least had the chance to hear her explain. Like I feel
To
like
talk about it with her,
that's the
like
one you're gonna look back on and be
totally.
really upset and
Most
naive
regret.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the fact that she was at the hospital with Luca, like she had gone there
Yeah.
and searching for him, but still knew what was important to him, you know, and
Right.
he was really trying. And I think she even yells after him when he's running away from her when he finds her in the meeting that she's doing it for Bunu's health, for medicine, for him. Which, hey, doesn't that sound familiar, Christina?
Right.
You
Which
know?
also feels like I can understand why he would think that she wasn't being, like truthful, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I agree. Like everything happened so rapidly that there was never a chance for them to sit down and have a conversation. Because I think if they told their stories to each other, there would have been enough of like overlap of like, oh yeah, like the same thing is happening to me.
And to me, the where she should have got the benefit of the doubt was she wasn't playing the party position at any point. Like he knows how hard she's working, how much she's trying to help everyone around them and everything that they're going through. And, I wonder if part of it, like he found in her box of things, which was his
Yeah,
first warning sign of her. She had the secret box, but he needed his dollar back to buy the illegal paperwork from
right.
Starfish there. Uh, he sees the earrings from the woman from Boston who
Mm,
came because her mother was dying and she was granted this very rare ability to come here to
right.
to be with her. And I think that him seeing those earrings, he is just immediately being like, "Oh, she's not who I thought at all. Like she's accepting payment from this person or whatever. Is she informing on her too?" Like
Right.
I think there was way too much going on in his head at the time, and he didn't have a chance to sort it all out. So I was just really that was my biggest kind of like sad moment, I guess,
Yeah.
was the fact that they never got a chance to kind of right the ship. And I hope, I don't know, as part of this closure in the epilogue we can get to later, he realizes more about her. Because we do see like we don't see all the documents or whatever, but we see in the ones that they're writing about him that there's more than just what was said. They're kind of giving, oh, he seems reluctant or he's arrogant or whatever. So hopefully
Right.
there was something in there that let him know that she was just doing the best for what she thought was best for the family kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you put somebody in a really difficult position like that, like there's there's going to be things that they end up having to do that they wouldn't normally do, as is evidenced by his own situation.
Right.
So, yeah, I do agree that it is the saddest bit of like sort of non-closure. But I think that the epilogue, at the very least, he sounded like he was coming to the recognition that there was more going on than he was aware. Like he probably made maybe a bad judgment call, or not judgment call, but I'm sure he regrets the situation, but is feeling better about the fact that it wasn't her, it was his mom. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
better isn't the right word, but um
And
yeah.
I think too, it just did a proper job of staying with his age, where
Yeah,
he's younger
his
and in
immediate
his
like
eyes, like she caused him to think Luca was the informant. She
hmm
cost him Liliana. Maybe
hmm
she cost him Bunu. Like, so he's just seeing all the negatives there and being like, you did all of this. And
right.
I can
And because it's the
easily,
easiest explanation and like at that
and
age you're
any
not
kid,
going to sit and think with,
yeah,
yeah,
any kid would grab that and run with it
totally.
because it also puts some of the blame off of him. Like maybe it
Oh my
wasn't
gosh,
him that
yes.
caused Bunu's death, or
Yeah, like it couldn't be me. It's got to be
yeah.
this person.
And if it, if the only other people I keep close to me was Luca, so obviously I thought it would be him over you because you're my sister, you're supposed to protect me,
Right.
etc. So yeah, it worked. But the timing was a little cute there, but and it was sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, good, all good talking points, Russ. Good job.
hmm
How did you think she handled the retelling of the revolution and the events of December 1989 in Romania? Again, understanding that we have zero knowledge of this
Yeah, I mean,
outside.
I wrote for me, it's just a telling, not a
Yeah,
retelling. But I mean, it was very helpful to read the stuff at the back, like the historical bits
yeah,
and how she explained, sort of like what she took from real events. So having that perspective, like at the very end of the book, I was like, okay, yes, the way she portrayed everything felt true to reality, and it felt very visceral because
Mm.
of that sort of personal connection like we've been talking about this whole time. The characters that we're with during the revolution and during these protests and stuff, we felt a connection to, or we feel a connection to. So it's very easy um to feel like it's happening to you, or to feel the intensity of the moment. Um, and the fact that the realism of the people being taken to that jail or that prison or whatever, and like the beatings that they got, and everything just felt so, it's so easy to read because you're so invested in these people, and like shit is really going south, but you're also very hopeful because it is this revolution that you're assuming is going to work out for them. So yeah, she did a really good job sort of like balancing the intense humanity of it and the um, I don't know, I guess historical factual stuff.
Yeah, I think like everything where she's successful here, she gave us a really full picture. It
Mhm.
wasn't just like Les Mis where we're standing at the barricades and the battle is
Yeah.
happening and this is the
It was like,
excitement because we're fighting and all that. No, we see we see the peaceful protest for gain momentum and
develop,
then
yeah.
push towards this moment where even not knowing what happened in Romania in 1989, we see it everywhere. We've seen it in the US where peaceful protests, you
It
call in
escalates.
soldiers, think Ohio, Kent State there, shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
Back to the Revolutionary War, the shot heard around the world. All it
Yeah.
takes is one person to really escalate things. So
Yeah.
as that starts going crazy, it's very easy to see that. I appreciated that we like as soon as that started, there was no putting the book down because you're really
Hmm.
wondering what's happening here. And we were never guaranteed that Christiane makes it
People
through
would
this book.
survive.
Because
Yeah.
it's like even in the beginning, it talks about how like the story is found at a gravesite,
Yeah.
right? So we have no idea how that story got out. And again, that's fictional, but whatever, that's cool. Cool
Too.
little,
Yeah.
it's like a nice little hook to where again, you don't I didn't I'm glad contrary to everything I just said, I'm glad Cece died because it gave us that actual
The
fallout.
we.
Like,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
everyone made it through this, which would be realistic. You would not
Yeah.
expect everyone to get through it. But that high tension the entire time as we're following Christiane through all these things, like, is he gonna die at the police station? Like, and this is one of those moments where, oh, I still have X amount left in the book. Doesn't really
Right.
matter because to me, I'm just assuming somebody else is gonna pick it up, right? Especially once he runs into Liliana, it's like, okay, if
Yeah.
she dies, then maybe we keep hearing the story through her. So I
Yeah.
thought she did just an incredible job of giving us, once again, that whole view of everything that was happening, even to the point where he's like, when he gets out, where how many Kents, which are their cigarettes, does it take to bribe the guards to get the children? And
Yeah.
like the fact that they're 17, but they're still taking a leap of faith where it's like, are we going somewhere better? Or
Right.
are we just isolating ourselves to be killed in quiet away from everybody else? Like there was every decision literally your life hinges on. And even the decision to leave Liliana, where she's like, no, somebody needs to get the word out. Even if you're
Yeah.
leaving me, that's the only way we get out.
Right.
Because otherwise nobody knows where the hell we are.
She's so brave.
Ugh,
Um, I agree, and I think I'll just add to the full picture in that it's like with that kind of event where there's like a tipping point revolution situation happening, to be able to get the real, we were put into the front lines, we were put into the behind the scenes, we were put into the aftermath in such a way that like really felt as the full picture was told
mm,
of what was going on. Yeah, sure, like we didn't stick with one area, like you said, Les Mis style, like we're only in this zone. Um, and I think that that really added to um the realism of it because like there is a what happens after, or there is a this person, like when Luca got shot, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. And the you felt Christian's like concern
yeah.
and the sort of manic way. He was like, I need to find him, like I need to do this, I need to do that. And you were just like really in it.
Yeah.
Um,
And just the way they talked throughout it, like he refuses to get in the van because he doesn't know where that's going until he sees Liliana.
Right.
And then they see the father, I think, with the two young
Oh,
children, basically being like, "You need to stay together. Whatever you do here, stay together." And then Liliana, and I've seen this before in other things where it's like, "My name is Liliana Pavel, and this is Christian Flescu, and we are from this location. If any of you gets out, let our parents know we were here."
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just the uncertainty of what's going to happen to you in the next 10 minutes, let alone 24 hours. Like the pressure was just the pressure was just bubbling over. It was just so gripping how she handled it. And then again, even once he breaks free and escapes from the
It's the
van,
guy with the bike to
yeah,
take him somewhere.
he's still in incredible danger, and the only thing that helps him, he even points it out, because the communist regime makes them all wear similar clothing and shoes and etc. He's like, I'm just blending in now. I'm one of the many,
Right.
which was
Because the
yeah, just
only thing that makes him stand out is that he was beat to shit and
yeah, and
like
he
his
doesn't comb his
nose
hair.
was broken and like
Yeah.
that, just like that whole section was just such a page turner.
And just the fact that nobody knew what was going on, and
Right.
you could see like the hold of the regime falling, where the reason they were able to get those kids out, because it was up to individuals who are still
Yeah.
taking bribes, basically.
Right.
How he shows they when the chaos of the hospital, and then he's only able to go back to Luca because he bribes with cigarettes,
Yeah.
that I think Starfish had given him. He's like,
Yeah.
he knew he needed them to get his answers,
Right.
and just trying to piece that together. And then as we learn about Luca's parents and his parents being out all night trying to find them because they have no idea where any of their children are. It's just pandemonium.
I also totally forgot about how this entire time he had that article stuffed down his on his person and was
Yeah.
just like so terrified that if somebody searched him well enough, they'd find this basically like
Death sentence.
yeah,
Yeah.
like contraband doesn't even like explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just made the whole thing so much more intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, damn.
So yeah, without having any knowledge of it going into it, I just thought it was incredibly impactful to give us, everything. Like we just got snippets of everything. What's actually happening at the protest, what was happening in the prisons, what was happening to the children, what was happening in the hospitals, what was happening in the
Yeah,
streets. Like
yeah,
it just did a very good job and never let down its pace. We didn't get bogged down in the action or anything like
right.
that. It was all happening
It was
very
very
quickly, as you would
fast.
assume it
Yeah.
would be happening in real life. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and
I
the
thought
whole like not knowing what's going on because like everything's like word of mouth, but you don't know where people are. You don't know like it was interesting too because it felt like in that moment during the revolution that there was like sort of a solidarity of the citizens not knowing it was kind of normally they don't trust each other because they're like
yeah,
people are informing. And then there was this like intense rise of like people kind of having to trust each other because they're on if you're on this side, like we are one
yeah.
against the other side. And I thought that was just an interesting change from previously. Like everyone would be very suspicious of each other.
And just one last thing on that. I think she set it up from the beginning so well, with the dedication being to the brave
Mm,
students of Romania in 1989, as they were the ones that it started off as this political bullshit. Like, Christian even mentions, like, if there's more than like four of us hanging out, we get broken up. Like, that's a big
problem.
thing.
Yeah.
But if Suescu wants to say something, Kusaku wants to say something, 50,000
Everyone,
people can gather, and that's fine. So it starts as this like bullshit political rally because there had been an uprise in another city
right.
that was like a few hundred
Yeah.
kilometers away. And so Kuzuku was trying to push that down. So he had this little thing, and it didn't seem like anything was going to happen. But then the students come through and start the actual protesting.
Chanting.
And
Yeah.
then they gain people from there. And like you said,
The momentum.
there is that moment where it's you're either with us or you're against us. And this is a very clear defining line of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just so much. Yeah, so crazy. And then the fact that like in the we learn, I think this is part of the epilogue too, that like after the fall, kind of a new communist regime got put in place, and it still wasn't great.
Yes.
It was like a little bit better, but like for all that freedom we fought for, we still had to deal with some bullshit for a few years. Like, and again, believable because you don't
Yeah.
just overthrow your government and then have
And then
everything
everything's hunky dory.
perfect the next day.
Yeah.
Um, I think before we get to the epilogue, I want to touch on one of my additional spoilers, which was his notebook. So Christian has this notebook that he hides underneath his bed of rugs, and it's the only place he feels safe to put his thoughts. And basically, what happens is he understands that for word to get out, he needs to place some trust in the Van Dorns. So he kind of fills this thing with his thoughts and some of the jokes that Bunu said and his just what he sees, what life is. And he writes this beautiful poem at the end, signs it anonymously, and then leaves it on the Mr. Van Dorn's desk, hoping that he will see it and take it with him to America to spread the word. What did you think of that and kind of the full circle moment that we see as his poem is read on Radio Free Europe?
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, again, one of the reasons why I was like, I wish Christian was like real.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I thought it was incredibly moving and just so remarkable that he had that idea. I mean, it was pretty dangerous, and I applaud his um risk taking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that wouldn't exist without the influence of Bunu, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he sort of understands how important it is to put a more personal spin. He's doing in that notebook exactly what she's doing in writing this book and like
Yes.
providing the personal touch or aspect or outlook. And I think that that's exactly what was needed for the time. I was so emotional when they were reading it on the radio or read his poem, and I so love that he decided to tell Liliana about it.
Yeah.
I think that was really important for him because that he just did this incredibly risky thing, and to kind of sit in that alone would be terrifying.
Yeah.
Um, and so to have somebody that knew that it was his, I don't think did he ever let her read it? Or
No.
he just told her about it,
He told
right?
her about it because so like he came up with the idea when they were together on the stairwell,
Right.
but he didn't tell her what the actual idea
Because he couldn't
was.
trust her necessarily.
And I think he was just, yeah, there was just so much pressure behind that. I mean, that's worse than the contraband that he had. This was
Right.
him speaking out against the government,
Right.
and he was going to willingly give it to a foreigner. So I think part of that was just more to keep her safe, and just it was already crazy
Sure.
enough.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you the fact that he had shared that before the poem came on, so they could share that moment together.
That I was bawling. It was so good. I was like, this is exactly the kind of um hopeful like protagonist thing that
Yeah.
you want to see. It was just like such a nice culmination of everything that had happened because they really went through some crazy shit.
Even to the point where his dad was like, "Damn right," or whatever, and his mom was
Yeah.
like, for her, was like, "They're not wrong," kind of
Right.
like that was
Which
as
is
far as she
huge.
would go,
Yeah.
which was a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, as far as the notebook itself, I really liked a couple different things. Like again, just thinking about the things we take advantage of or take for granted, and how difficult this situation was for him, how that was his crutch for everything. So the presence of it in his backpack, because he has to take it to school with him for the day he's going to meet Dan to leave it on Dan's dad's desk. That's a fun alliteration. And he talks about the weight of it and how he wants to stand up like the kid who was an informant. He's like, I have a bomb, like
I would
figuratively.
be sweating profusely the
Yeah.
whole time.
Oh yeah. But so we have that and all the fear he has around that, and then not even knowing if Mr. Van Dorn what he's going to do with it. But then afterwards we have the absence of it, which I like that we focused on because now he doesn't have that place to put his thoughts. And like he even scribbles something on his wall at one point, remembering something he had written in his journal. So I liked that it played such a big role for him, and we
Totally.
felt it in every way. Again, just really good at giving us the full picture
Oh my
of
gosh,
what they
yes.
were going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was just super well done. And again, just giving us more connection to our character. So moving into the epilogue, we learn our big twist is that Christiane's mother was a willing informant. I wanted to know what you thought of this final plunge of the knife.
I mean, like, so I wrote that it was like surprising, not surprising, only in that, like, I think we talked about this before we started recording that obviously the call was coming from inside the house, and he
Yeah.
thought for a while that it was his sister, because that was kind of like the paths were leading him there. But I think if, like we said before, if he'd sort of stepped back and looked at it with a less emotional eye, he maybe would have gotten onto the fact that it was his mom, which is incredibly distressing to
Yeah.
learn that your mother is doing this, especially because it led to Bunu's death, and that was somebody that was so important to him. But I can sympathize a little bit with her fear,
Mm.
and her desire to like keep her kids safe and thinking that this was the only way to do that, which is kind of a wild concept because to keep her kids safe, informing on them doesn't feel like A to B proper transit. So that was a little rough. I think that it makes sense to me that especially mothers are kind of perfect targets
Yeah,
for
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 sure.
that,
Yep.
because they're going to be more susceptible. They're going to have more to lose. They're going to um, be more fearful in general. So it'd be easy to manipulate them to do the thing that you want them to do. Um, it was just really sad to see that the family could have been so much stronger if they were united
Yeah.
in their feelings about the regime and everything. And that I think was maybe the biggest disappointment was that there's maybe this entire family full of revolutionaries, except this one person really bringing down the ship.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing and should have been the biggest sign. Like we take throughout the story her paranoia because she's worried about everyone's safety, but we don't really think beyond that because beyond that, she actually is in favor of this regime. Like she has swallowed the Kool-Aid.
She has,
And it was interesting. I don't remember what it was that she couldn't have more children, but like you feel like there's probably part of her where she only had two kids, which isn't gonna get you any
I
medals
know.
in Romania.
Yeah.
So, there's probably some of that self-loathing in there as well. And then the fact that Bunu is so outspoken, it's not even, it's like hatred towards the man. She's worried that he is going to infect her children.
Right.
So, if that was it, if it was like, I'm only doing it to protect my children, fine. But then also, she's the one or whatever, if it when it's brought up or whatever, because she works for the Van Dorns. She cleans
Yeah.
their house and she's not getting enough information. So somebody comes up with the idea that maybe Cece can seduce Mr. Van Dorn to get more information that way. So I don't know if that was the mother, but she also didn't protect her from that. And that's how Cece falls into the hands of the secret police agent that Christiane calls paddle hands because of how big
Yeah.
his hands are.
So funny.
And then when that doesn't work out, she plants the dollar bill in the stamp collection and informs on Christiane and gets him pulled into it too because okay, well, Cece couldn't be a seductress. Maybe my son can be a friend to him. And like, fuck off. That's
So,
that's where you cross the line.
yeah.
How is that protecting your
Yeah.
children by getting them more involved?
Right. Right. I think that it doesn't make sense to me to have this be it doesn't seem logical, but maybe her reasoning was if I can get them involved, then they're gonna end up also drinking the Kool-Aid, which like
Yeah.
honestly, if you're gonna get them involved and they're going to be involved in that way, they're gonna be more radicalized against the regime. I just very counterintuitive, but yeah, I think she was probably a very good representation of what is likely and unfortunately pretty common
Yeah.
of people who were like either had drank the Kool-Aid completely or were just so scared that they like had to have that attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, and we learned too that 1 in 10 people in Romania at this time were informants.
That's
So
so insane.
fucking crazy, 10% of
Yeah.
the population. And it could be anything. Like that to Christian's benefit, I guess, or like I was a little I thought he was gonna betray more of his friends and everything, like based on the
Mm.
title of the book and everything. So the fact that he is only brought in to inform on the Dan
And
Van
Burns, yeah.
Dorn, I'm not going to say it was a letdown, but I will say it felt like he was getting off a little bit easier than other people for sure.
There, that it was
Now,
like somebody at a distance from him, not
yeah,
some.
but and it didn't help that he was still an informant and he had to go to these. group
Yeah.
meetups, whatever, and hide that from people. And obviously couldn't be like, oh, it's just for the Americans,
Right,
not you
right.
guys. I would never inform on you. So yeah, it did still cause him stress, but I did appreciate even still that in their last time hanging out when Dan called him a pal and then had to
Mm,
explain it was like a friend, like that broke him. And he
yeah,
was like, I have to get out of here. And he like ran away from their last meeting and was just a mess because he saw Dan as just a target who didn't understand him, and Dan obviously saw him as something
as a
more.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that if Christian had been able to develop that relationship with Dan without that looming you were informing on him, they would be friends, or I think he would consider him friend. Like,
And then I don't know if I read this the wrong way or not, though, but after that, it seemed like somebody came and talked to Dan. And I was wondering if Dan was also being used to kind of learn more about Christiane.
yeah, that was kind of a confusing bit. I think I read that bit like a couple of times to be like,
Yeah.
am I, what's going on here? Um, yeah, I'm not really sure I understood what happened there because like they said that Dan gave that person something, but I was like, but Dan gave
I,
Christian something.
I assumed it was Christiane's address because he had him
Oh,
write down his address so they could be pen pals. Um,
oh,
Yeah, but it did seem like
okay.
it was some kind of American agency. I don't think he was like informing to Romanians about him, obviously.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, that I just found that a little peculiar. As like, what would Christiane have that you would want? Unless
Yeah.
they just were hoping to turn him maybe or something, or who knows?
Or like that the person or that he gave that person his own like Dan gave the person his the essay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Um because Christian didn't end up like reading it,
he
right? He like
couldn't.
gave it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if he read the essay, he'd have to inform on it, and
Right.
like that was exactly what they were looking for was kind
Yeah.
of what the Americans think of
Right.
Romanians.
Right.
So that was, yeah, we're calling him a friend really broke him.
This is a totally random thing, but I want to just mention that I think it was really interesting how the entire time he was in the meetings with paddle hands, he was like saying what his plan was to like circumvent the situation, like try to outsmart him. And it
Yeah.
felt like every now and then he like made headway, but then the little report would be like, he thinks he's fucking smart.
Yeah. Fucking arrogant kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like a really interesting bit because I also assumed paddle hands would be like a dumb brute.
Yeah.
Um, but then in the reports, I'm like, God damn it.
And then you also got to wonder like who's informing on paddle hands, like there's so
Yeah.
many layers to these things too. Uh we learn through that high school reunion that paddle hands has a name and is
Yeah.
down the block or whatever from that
Right.
kid who broke.
Right.
And so Christiane, the book ends with him knocking on his door. I was wondering
Yeah.
what you thought of his decision. Like 20 years later, at this point, what do you think it's really worth it to, I assume, go for that closure? Maybe he's trying to find something more about his sister. I don't know.
Yeah. Or his mom or something. Because, like, was this at the point that he knocked on the door, had those reports been re unsealed or whatever, and he'd been able to
He did. I
read
don't
them?
know. He obviously saw paddle hands with his sister. I don't know
Right.
if he was also the handler for his mother as well or not. But
No, but I wonder if there's like a way for him, like you said, closure of like
yeah.
maybe connecting some of the dots that he wasn't really able to with the reports.
And that is crazy to think that those people just went back to living after all that shit happened. Like he mentioned
Yeah.
that the secret police that like during the revolution there were snipers and people pulling people off the street like they did to him and all this. And then 4 to 5 days later they weren't held accountable. They just kind of blended back in. It's like this guy obviously very for those who know, he is very recognizable. And
Yeah,
what do you supposed like yeah, what are you supposed to do? Just buy groceries together? It's
I
like
guess so.
crazy.
Yeah, that is wild, especially like when you find out anybody is an informant. I feel like
Yeah.
that's going to change your opinion of them in general. And like most of the, I don't think there was any representation of those guys who drive the cars, those dudes, the
Yeah.
paddle hand dudes, um, siding with the revolutionaries.
Not that we heard. I mean, it doesn't mean that they did. I think also you would have to think like if they're holding something over me, what were they hold maybe they were holding something over them? you
Right.
know?
That's kind of what I'm wondering if like there would be an opportunity for those people to be like, oh, everyone's doing it. I'm gonna jump in. Because
Yeah.
like I also don't, I'm just doing this because it's like a marriage of convenience or whatever, or I'm
Yeah.
being blackmailed into doing it.
Yeah. There are some people like the jailers seem to enjoy their job.
They
And some of
did,
the police definitely enjoyed their job.
for
But
sure.
yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean they did. I just found it, I don't know if I'd want to reopen that wound, to
Sure.
actually confront that
Like,
guy. I'm also not that person. I'm not a very confrontational person. So
yeah.
very different scenario anyway. But yeah, just that stood out to me as like, wow, maybe it's better to let the sleeping dog lie.
Yeah, I do wonder if like some of the reasoning behind going to see him would be to kind of find out like how from his perspective what happened after.
Yeah.
Like is he a recluse now because everyone shuns him, like how is his life now?
Mhm.
I don't know. Christian is a very like knowledge seeking guy.
Sure.
So-
Very true. Another thing we learned through this was that Bunu did not have leukemia. That he
Oh
was
yeah.
actually poisoned when they brought him in for questioning. He learns through one of his old contacts that the coffee is,
Right.
don't drink the coffee or whatever is like the code
Yeah.
word. But basically, they were putting like uranium or some shit in the coffee because, yeah, ingested, it will basically
Symptoms like yeah.
symptoms like leukemia. Thank you. So that was just, again, the amount of shit that people do to remain in power and at no point ask themselves, like, am I the bad guy?
Right.
is insane.
Well, I think that the people that end up in power like that, likely have done some crazy shit to get themselves there in the first place.
Yeah,
And keeping themselves in power by any means necessary becomes so much more important than the means.
for sure. It's one of those things like people, the first rule of people in power is they shouldn't want power. And if they
Yeah.
do, you shouldn't be allowed to have it
Yep.
because it's not for you.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, was there anything else you wanted to touch on here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, just the last thing again, just finding out what his mother went through. We learned that she was the one who sabotaged the radio,
Yeah.
and then like couldn't do anything about it when Bunu sold all the Kents to get it fixed. But just the depth that she went in to try to keep them in the dark was a lot.
In
And it was good that she was no like both his parents had passed before those
right.
reports were released. I
Right.
think that was a really
That would
good
have
thing. I
been.
wonder how their relationship was, like if their father left her,
I kind of
especially
hope
being
he
new.
did because,
Same.
like, fuck you, bitch. I do wonder too, like, and maybe Christian brings this up at some point, but like, how is it that they were kind of always in Kent's? Like, if your mom hadn't been informing all the time. I mean, I guess like there's circumstantial situations like both Cece and the mom like kind of did, well, Cece in particular, like did favors for people,
Yeah.
so like it makes sense that or like tit for tat kind of.
I think it was also part of their rations, and none of them smoked
Oh,
them. So I think they were like, and again,
oh,
they had like 2 or 3 packs. It wasn't like they had cartons or anything like that. But I
okay,
do think they had a ration of them,
okay.
which then because
They
they
just
talk about
built up.
the Romanian currency meant nothing.
Right.
So everything you wanted to do, like it was basically
Black
prison
market
rules.
currency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about cigarettes. So.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So on that note, then we are going to move out of spoilers. Welcome back, everyone else. And moving out of spoilers, but not yet away from the book, we have to give it our grade. We do this based on the D&D scale. So 1 is bad, 20 is good, and then we add or subtract a characteristic, modifier, ability, or skill from the game Dungeons and Dragons that we think best fits this story. We alternate every episode. And I'm going first. I don't know if I changed it from last episode, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
go
like I'm
first.
not sure that that's right, but I
I
don't
don't,
think.
usually I change a little note here, but whatever. I'll go first. So for me, again, I try to look at these books as if there's something I want to take away. I don't know if I can. Historical fiction's not really my thing, but I feel like this was definitely my thing. As you said earlier, interested to see what her other works are about because it's not like we went into this knowing something about it and I was like, oh, okay, this confirms what I knew. Like, no, I found this interesting having no idea about any of this. And again, as you pointed out with the author's notes and everything, and as she talks about her research in the back, and notes the people she talked to and just the plethora
Yeah.
of information that she got from a group of
Direct sources.
a large group that wanted to remain wow, anonymous. I was gonna say unanimous for some reason, anonymous for many different reasons, and how she kind of tied their stories into it. But even down to like she interviewed one of the three soldiers who was brought in to perform the execution of Kusuku and his
Oh, that's
wife.
great.
Like that is crazy. And again, the
And the
fact that it's
figure
so
skater whose name is that's somebody that I like recognize, Nadia Kamensky or whatever.
Nadia Comaneci, yeah,
Kamichi, that's
the
it.
gymnast, yeah, who had
Yes. Oh,
defected.
gym. Yeah, okay.
I believe so. Anyway, she was an Olympian
Whatever.
who had
Yeah.
defected, like she had smuggled herself out, and was part of the reason that revolution gained ground was because she was
It got
telling
out, was
her
able to
story
fly.
in the US. So yeah, it was impressive to see all of that. And like that's
Mhm.
such an undertaking that would just throw me off from writing a book. I'd be like,
Yeah.
to hear the stories and to actually have to put faces on every single one of them and know what they went through, that just so you can spread the word is a
Yeah.
heavy burden to carry, but an important one. And I think she handled it really well. So I would be interested to read another one of her books and kind of see another
I'm sure.
aspect of something that maybe I don't know a lot about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I think it's pretty easy. I'm not going to think about it too hard. I'm going to give this a natural 20.
Wow.
I think that it just hit on a lot of things. I think it had the emotion behind it. I think, as we talked about, if this was a textbook, you don't learn as much. But because we were given the face of Christian and the whole picture on, as we touched about, we get the whole picture of his life. We get the whole picture of his family. We get the whole picture of what living in Bucharest was like in 1989, and then we get the whole picture of what 4 or 5 days in December 1989 was like for a lot of different people. I just thought she handled it so well that it was a page turner. I was behind because I don't read much when I'm visiting my parents due to the volume of their television. And this thing, I mean, I would have been this way even if I wasn't behind because I read it in a day and a half because I couldn't put it down. So it just really grabs you and lets you run with it. So for me, for my dice roll, I'm going to give it a +2 for deception because this was
Ooh.
another one that even as the reader, you don't have the full picture. So you feel that pressure, you feel that tension, you feel that fear that Christian does as he doesn't know who to trust. And as he's constantly questioning who was around to see this event and that event and etc. So I just thought she handled it really well in putting us in his shoes and giving us a lot of his emotions. So overall, for me, an absolute solid book. Good job, good reads. That's going to be a 22.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was such an easy book to read for so many reasons that we've already covered. I'm gonna give it a natural. I'm gonna give it a straight roll of 19. And I think that I'm giving it that because um I think that I will recommend this book to a lot of people, but I don't think that it's a book that I have as many people to recommend it to
Hmm.
because of it's a historical fiction. It is pretty heavy. It is kind of like an intense thing. Um, so it's not like a happy-go-lucky, it's not a Project Hail Mary where I'm like, everybody needs to read this.
Yeah.
So I think that it is so strong and so solid for what it is, but it is kind of a special genre of things that maybe are is less popular with the average person.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think it's like it's going to become one of my top recommended books at this point for sure, and I think it's for like book readers. Like not to
yeah,
be
yeah, that's
ridiculous.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like if you're just kind of dipping your toe in and you give somebody Project Hail Mary, they're gonna have a fun time. If you give them House
totally.
in the Cerulean Sea, they're gonna have like that found family, whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, this if you're just like, oh, you don't really read much, read this, and then they're like, well, this takes me to a dark place.
Right, right. And that's kind of why I'm holding back just a little bit. Like it was a very strong read, but I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It is a quality book for people who love to read books.
Yeah.
Which is not everybody. So, hopefully everyone that's listening, hi. Um, but yeah, I think overall she did such a good job bringing in the personality to a historical event. Obviously one that I knew nothing about, so it was also a learning experience for me, but it felt like very immersive. And I think that that's something that sometimes is missing from historical things and historical fiction, is sometimes that um, real way of putting yourself into it. And so I was gonna give it history, but I'm not because that's too easy. And instead, I'm gonna give it a +2 for charisma, because I think that that is probably Christiane's primary stat.
Nice.
Um, and I think that all the characters actually had quite a lot of it, and you felt them all, even the ones that you didn't necessarily like paddle hands. There were it was just it was really good, and the all the character building, I guess I'll call it, um, was very true to the historical aspect of the book as well. And I think that um, yeah, just really added to both aspects of it, the fiction part and the historical part.
Yeah.
So that's a 21.
Nice. So overall, 21 and a half. Obviously something that we would recommend to you if you are into books. If you're not, why are you in this podcast? But
Yeah, what are you doing here?
we appreciate you for liking us and instead of books, I
Enough
guess.
to listen about the books.
Yeah. So one last time, it was "I Must Betray You" by Ruta Sepetys, yeah, Sepetys, Sepetys, something like that.
Pettis? I don't know.
Sepetys. She has, like I said, 5.5 books out now, as she co-wrote one with somebody
Oh,
else
nice.
recently. And on that note, we're going to move away from the book, but we're not quite done with the show yet, as we have to get to our segments. We start with our current selection. What else have you been reading recently?
So I have finished book 5 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm on to book 6. I'm almost done. I have like an hour left of that. Um, it's really, really good. They're so fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my dad to listen to them. Dad, if you're listening, you should read those. Um, and what else? Oh, so I've started to read with more aplomb my that book, Gut. That's my bathroom book.
Yeah.
Um, I finished this book on my Kindle, and I was okay, I need like a real physical book, but I didn't really want to like start a whole new one. So I was like, oh, I'll just grab that. And I'm like halfway through. It is obviously a little slower going because it's like informational
Yeah.
about your body. But it is really interesting information. So yeah, probably by the next time we do the next podcast, I'll have finished that, I think.
Nice. For me, like I said, I didn't get a chance to do much reading, so I actually had to stop reading this book in the middle to read "I Must Betray You," and then I've gone back to it, and I probably could have finished this morning if I stayed more focused. But I'm finishing the third book of School of Mance, which is The Golden
Oh,
Enclaves, by Naomi Novik,
let me know it.
and it's fine. Like, it's fine.
In landing or
I don't know. We'll see. It's got like 60 pages left, and like the longer it goes on, the less I care.
oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Um, it's dealt a lot with uh Elle's relationship with Orion. And
Okay.
like they're dealing with other
Stuff.
situations. Like enclaves are falling around the world and they're trying to figure out who's attacking them. And so like there is some like fun mystery involved in it, but there's a lot of like pining and I don't know, I just that's
Not your
sometimes
jam.
when I'm reading now and this is a bad place to be, I'm like, what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
what are we
What am
doing?
I getting out of this?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And this book is kind of falling into that trap where it's like, did it need to be this way? And like, honestly, it reminds me as I'm trying to read all these series, it reminds me that I never finished the Tamaraire series. Like I think I died out on book 6.
Oh no.
I know, and it's the
You need
same
some
thing.
from me?
I will take some from you. I don't think I'm going to get to it this year.
Okay.
But I remember like there were definitely books there that missed, like
Yeah.
full books where you're like, fuck, what are we doing here? Like, where are we going? What's the like, did it have to be whatever it is, set 9 books long?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I feel about this. I'm like, did this have to happen, or could we have just left the cliffhanger of the second book and we don't really have to touch on this? Because it just feels like she's there's been
It's
a
really
few
drawn.
times where like we've fast traveled. where it's like, oh, like I don't remember much of what happened that night, so I'll just bring you up to speed here. It's like, oh, we were on another plane to do this, and it's like I feel like you're just like getting us literally from point A to point B at this point,
Yeah.
and that just makes it feel a little bit less rewarding as
Like
I'm
the
reading.
pacing is
So
wrong. Yeah.
maybe like the last 60 pages really pull it all together, but
That's not
um,
a lot of pages for.
it's a 400-page book, and we're really leaning on the last 15%.
Whoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
those books that do that are kind of like whiplash, I
Yeah.
think. Where you're like, I've gotten in complacent to the speed that we've been going, and then all of a sudden you're like, how could this possibly work?
And I
And
think
then
it
it
just
doesn't.
it's like just the way it's been being told, I'm like, I feel less and less connected to Elle. And I'm just like, I
Mm,
don't know, like whatever, kid, do whatever you want. I don't care.
yeah.
Destroy the
That's
world like you were
awesome.
prophesized to. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, all good times here, guys. Way to bring the show up. So moving on. We have random recommendation, and this is actually one that you recommended to me a very long time ago. That I think we had been starting the podcast by then, but if not, it was pre-ABC ABC as we were
Yeah.
mailing books to each other
Yeah.
back in the COVID days.
Before systems.
So the book, I'm sure most of you have heard of it, maybe not. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. Adeyemi? Um, we're not
Mhm.
here for pronunciations, folks.
Nope.
Adeyemi. My little Twitter note, as this was back when I was doing that, was this is an incredible story with powerful ties to the world we live in today and some of its evils. Act 2 bogs down a little bit, but the strength and growth in Zeely and Amari makes it all worth it. Ending has all the emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked that book. There's a second one,
A
right?
second and a third one
And a
now.
third. Okay,
And
well, I haven't read neither of those.
I haven't either, adding to the list of series we
Yeah.
need to go back to. But I think they're also coming out with a movie or
Ooh.
a show or
Yeah.
something based on it too. Because we like when we randomly started our Instagram that we don't really do much with, I followed like a bunch of people we had read, and one of them was her. So I
Yeah.
see like her posts every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, keeping updated on this series that I
Yeah.
started 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Whatever
The
it was.
cover art's fantastic as well.
Yes, and it was a really gripping story. So again, that's
Yeah.
Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. So check that out wherever you get books. You will literally, I think it's YA technically.
Yeah,
So
I think it is.
check that section. And so closing it out, we have what's on the next podcast. This is another one that seems to have been all over the place for a while and is one we were destined to pick up. It was another part of this Goodreads recommendation pile. The book is Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. Hopefully, I'm saying any and all of that
What a
correctly.
name.
Yeah. And the blurb I pulled off the internet was a fantasy about estranged siblings who inherit a sentient house pursued by a sinister figure and a cross-country journey with magic and mayhem. So,
Love the sentient house situation.
how, and if you haven't seen the picture, the cover art, it's a house with chicken legs, which is some kind of old fairy tale. I forget what they call
Mythological
it.
type thing, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was, there was somebody who had crocheted one at DragonCon this year, and I was like, "Oh, Thistlefoot," and they were like, "Whatever it actually is," and I was like, "Cool." Gonna walk over there.
Got
Uh,
it.
yeah, so that's gonna be on the next podcast. Complete 180 from historical fiction. Let's go fantasy fairy tale.
Yep.
So that means that we are done here. This has been episode 107. We did it, guys! Of the ABC Pod, the Adult Book Club with Taja and Russell.
Keep reading.